Hey everyone, welcome to Code Speak by R, powered by UStride, where today we are going to explore the crossroads of art, culture, and community impact. We are thrilled to have a truly remarkable guest, Vandana Agarwal. Vandana is a passionate advocate for folk art around the globe with the focus on rich Indian tradition with an impact to modernization as well. As the founder of Bandyworks, she curates experiences, fostering conversations into connections. Welcome, Vandana. Welcome to our show.
Well, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to have you.
I'm really happy to be here because for so long I've been in this area and working with workshops, taking workshops globally on this area of folk art, as you said. And I truly am passionate about not about teaching people, but feeling that whatever I know, I'd love to share with people. Whatever I find in the artworks of in the folk arts of my country and other countries, it would be so nice if everybody had just a tiny bit of exposure to them and maybe learn to draw a little bit or whatever. I mean, that's my basic idea.
Amazing. So, with the basic idea that you have, I'm sure you have a very rich background on this particular aspect. So, can you take us through your journey?
Okay, so rich in the sense that I have dealt with it for a long time, and I remember the first time. I mean, it's such a clear memory for me. The first time when I actually attended Madhubani workshops. Madhubani is a folk art from Bihar in India, and before that, I used to dabble a lot in art, but nothing very formally. So this is a person called Purva Khandelwal, and the place is Pune, and she did a 1 week workshop just for Madhubani. The way she structured it, every day we were doing something, learning to draw on an object, and then we had an exhibition at the end. But the main thing that stays with me today, till today, is that whatever I used to do in that, half a day with Purva, I would come back and share with my family. At the end of 1 week, my husband, Vikrant, Rijita, our children, and my mother in law, everybody knew about Madhubani. Everybody could recognize Madhubani. Everybody could talk about, okay, there's a parrot here, there's a lotus here, oh, there's a sun there. So for me, that was the beautiful part of it. And it's not that at that point of time I was thinking of doing workshops, but that experience, that's something which I didn't know about. I could learn and share with my family. That is the thing which I try to not incorporate, but bring to my workshops. That you may be doing the workshop only for an hour and a half, but the joy and the fun that you have in the workshop is for you. And if you like, you can carry it back to your near and dear ones. Do something with it later. Don't do something with it later, but at least be familiar with that particular art form and learn to appreciate that art form because you've done it apne haath se. That is my whole idea.
Absolutely. Beautiful idea. So, when we speak about this particular art form or any art form, of course, there is a traditional approach to modernization these days. So, how do you
Yes.
preserve that balance between the two?
That's a very delicate question because, quite not just for folk art, for any classical art, dance, etc., any art form, there's one way where you study it for years and years and years and years, the Guru Shishya Parampara that we all know about. And then you become Mahir or you become really good at it, and then you start performing, etc. And then once you've kind of, understood it through and through, then maybe there will be a point where you would kind of experiment, do something which is more contemporary, etc. This is completely my thought, etc., that folk art is a little more freeing than that. It's not that folk art is not structured. Of course, Madhubani has a set rules, colors, what you draw, etc. Varli is completely different from that, except that they're all folk art, so that means they belong to common people. I mean, I don't mean to demean the word common, but it's people like you and me who are not completely immersed into art as the theory of it, the style of it, right? So when folk art is freeing, then uh, when I share something with you, okay, today we're going to draw a fish, right? So it's not that the fish can be drawn in only a particular way. right? My fish could be fat, your fish could be thin, your fish could have three fins, mine could have no fins, and the no could be because I just forgot to draw them, or I'm not good at drawing them, or there was less space to draw them, right? That
Right,
kind of a thing. So
right.
I can put in my own interpretations to the fish, and I own that fish because I'm drawing that fish, right? So that is my thought about folk art, that I'm drawing it in Madhubani style, but I'm drawing it my way also. I'm bringing my way, but it remains a Madhubani fish. Now, the next step is, suppose I say that, okay, I want to draw a car in Madhubani. Traditionally, of course, there were no cars, the cars didn't exist, right? But folk art is an art that is not dying or dead. Folk art is relevant today because it's of the people. So if I'm seeing cars and aeroplanes and election and floods and trains today, then I will use that in to represent my day-to-day life. Folk art is about what is happening in my life today, and I want to communicate that with you. So that is where the contemporary part of it comes. That I can draw a car in Madhubani, as long as I stick to the basic ground rules. The ground rules in Madhubani, there are double lines, there are hatching, and the colors that we use. So I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely, beautifully it does. So, working on so many workshops and projects, can you share like an interesting project that you had?
Okay, so I'll talk about, in fact, since I mentioned the fish, so that was one of the earlier workshops which I did with the London Drawing Group, and it's been an amazing collaboration with them because when somebody just trusts you. Okay, you want to do a Madhubani workshop. I don't know about. I mean, they don't know much about it, but you are the, so to say, the master of it, or you know about it. Please go ahead, we will host it for you. So that in itself gives you so much of strength, and not power, it gives you so much of strength that I can design something, I can curate something my way. I need to communicate. Sometimes I used to worry that I speak English too fast. Will they be able to understand? Will they follow me? So I used to I kept asking, am I okay? Is my speed okay? And she said, of course, Bandana, go ahead. So, I mean, I'm just sharing that my first workshop with them was so beautiful because she had just given me the guideline. Okay, you've said 1.5 hours, so let's just keep that 1.5 hours, and you go with it. And while doing it, I mean, the workshop, went on, and I had my entire, what should I say, uh, steps. Pehle we'll do this, then we'll do this, then we'll do this. And my theory is that sometimes when you don't know what the final outcome is, it's more interesting because you're not stuck. You don't say, oh, this is the final, I need to reach there. So we went step by step by step by step, and then the best part, when it was done, right? Some didn't complete, some completed, etc. So the final part was, look at it, raise it, and say that I did this all by myself, sitting far away, and it's gorgeous. And people did do it, and they did. I mean, they didn't say it just because I was saying so. They said, Vandana, we wouldn't have believed it if you had shown us in the beginning and said, this is what we are going to draw. But we were not scared that we won't reach there. So we went step by step, and we really made this amazing uh, art piece for ourselves. So for me, I mean, that's like a point to remember, which I keep going back to. Ki yes, somewhere I think I must be doing something right, or I am doing something right, that I could touch that many people and make them feel good about themselves. That's
Interesting,
it.
very,
Uh,
very interesting.
uh,
And the positive affirmation towards the end, that
uh,
helps more because it really manifests that you've done something so beautiful and creative.
and it's, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you didn't know that about yourself.
Yes,
You didn't start out knowing about that, I can do it so well, or whatever you thought of. And when it's right there, it kind of, at least I hope, that it spreads in many other areas of your life, that things which I haven't done, things which I haven't thought of, maybe I can explore them, maybe I'll be good at them, maybe not, but at least I can leave that fear, push that fear aside, and move forward and try, take that plunge, to so to say.
absolutely, absolutely. So, when we speak about art again and the testimonial that you shared with us, so
Mhm.
there is a process and an inspiration both to it. So, what is
Hmm.
your take on using botanicals for creativity?
Okay. See, botanicals is something, natural dyeing, botanical printing and dyeing. It's called eco printing, natural dyeing, botanical dyeing. It's the same. It means the same. This is something which I've been wanting to do for a long time. It's just one of those nascent desires. It's something that called me, but I never ever dabbled in it. So just at the end of COVID, I actually went and attended a workshop, and that was the first time I was traveling after God knows how many years. I mean, definitely after COVID, and this was a small school for the Adivasis, a little further inside, further than Ahmedabad, that kind of a thing. And Lvina, it was such an amazing experience. First of all, it was just all out in the open, so it's like whatever you are doing and thinking and working at, you're living that. Very
Right.
simple life, very simple food. We used to actually sit on the floor in the kitchen, and they would just cook and give it to you in your thali, etc. Simple food, etc. We didn't know each other from before at all, but we kind of all bonded because we were all looking at this particular area. And the impression that it created for me was that all this is naturally available to us: leaves, flowers, fruits, vegetables, whatever. And they are inherently saying, we are colorful, we can add color to your life, right? So why do we need to go into synthetic dyeing, etc., which would pollute our waters? And there is so much more. So that's one part of it. It's naturally available, and it is accepted that you want to be colorful in life. It's not that, oh, everybody should be pale and brown. And I mean, not that brown is not a color, but you shouldn't have fun with colors, etc. That's accepted because nature itself is so colorful and beautiful, right? So you are following the same footstep. And then when you use those colors, I mean, leaves, etc., to create color, and then you dye with those colors. And mind you, it's not a pataksiv process ki 5 minutes it happens, you go to the dyer. And it doesn't. When you take it, it's a slow process, and it takes a long time. But the magic of when it actually happens, and you hold a piece of fabric or whatever you think, and oh, this is marigold, it actually gives you yellow color. Every time, I mean, and I'm not overstating it, every time that it gives you color, you feel ki, I mean, I see marigolds almost every day, and I never think that they will give me such a
Yes.
beautiful shade. So, for me, it's both things. It's first is the magic, and secondly, you're taking something from the environment, and you're taking it very mindfully. You don't go around plucking, thousands. Ye ped hai samne, let's pluck all the leaves because we'll need maybe 10 of them. No, you do it mindfully. You do it at windfall. You do it whatever. And imagine another very good thing. When I'm walking around now, I can see, I like the shape of this leaf. I think, will this give me color? So suddenly I'm more present to nature
Yes.
around me. And you can see how passionate I am because I can just go on and on and on. Sorry.
No, it's
Uh,
beautiful because we are
uh,
gaining so much from your experience sharing.
uh,
So, when we speak about art and the social impact that it
mhm,
has, like you
mhm,
mentioned, being in the present, right?
mhm.
Even though it's a traditional art form with modernization, you're in the present, whether you draw an aeroplane, a car, or floods, or whatever. So,
Yeah,
what is
yeah.
your rewarding experience when you speak on societal impact of art?
So can I give this to you through an example, something which actually happened?
Please, please.
Okay, so one of the workshops that I did was with Amazon in Seattle, right? And I was a little, again, I was a little nervous. Will I be able to communicate everything that I want them to do over there? Because these are people from various job backgrounds, career backgrounds. They were not all artists. They were not all just there for fun. So they were, of course, they were designers, but they were project managers. They were leads. They were, you know, various backgrounds. And once they finished, and we had done, again, these were early times, so we done Madhubani on a tote bag, right? And when I got to talk to them later, they said in Seattle we do have a lot of Indians. So it's not that India is something which we've never heard about, food wise, language wise,
Right.
music wise, etc. But this is our first exposure to a folk art form of India. And for many of them, it was the first exposure to folk art of any country, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
they said that suddenly it makes us feel it's not that alien. It speaks to us also. And it was
Yeah.
quite easy. It wasn't that difficult. We could draw, we'd done a sun. So we could draw. It wasn't that difficult. And for me, that was, okay, that makes it all worthwhile, because I'm not looking at creating artists. I'm not looking at, I was not even looking at being a votary for India, over there, etc. But a universal language, a language of communication. If we can look at an unknown place, an unknown person, an unknown entity, they're not that different from us. We are all probably somewhere, we just need to find a language to communicate and that kind of a thing. Uh, I think that is really, really wonderful. And all age groups, it's age independent. Anybody could learn to speak that language, and it didn't matter if my son was bigger, smaller, teda, it didn't matter. So that's
Beautiful.
what I feel.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, speaking about the experience that you had, so mentoring and coaching comes naturally. So, what advice would you
Huh.
give women entrepreneurs of today?
And see, mentoring is something which is very close to my heart, and not mentoring in the way we probably understand that you have corporate mentoring, where that kind of thing. But I also work with women of 2 tier, 3 tier cities. That means who are not really in the bigger cities, etc. And what I would say, that keeping my, see, I haven't done this for donkey's years. It's probably just been about the last 10 years or so. Whenever in life you feel that there is something not necessarily missing, but something more that you want to do with whatever are your dreams, or whatever, whether it is to make money, whether it is to create art, whether it is to set up a business, whatever it is that you have a dream about, and something which you're good at, if you can marry those two things together, and if you can find out something which is unique to you, if you persist, you need your mentors, you need your group of people who understand you, you need the business plan, but all that comes later. If you feel that there is something which is really calls you and you're passionate about it, perhaps that is where the space is, where you can maybe develop a business out of it, to whatever extent that you want. You can be an entrepreneur in something which is unique to you. That's what happened with me. So I mean, that's what I would say to anybody. Don't give up on your dreams, but you need to work at it. You can't expect to for it to come to you on a platter, but
Yeah.
that working towards it needn't be something which is very, very arduous and very, very difficult. You can have fun, you can share your journey. So that is where mentors come in. Share your journey with your mentors, and they will hold your hands. I mean, I would love to hold anybody's hand to, okay, if you're going on a journey, especially in the creative field, but any entrepreneurial field.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, when we speak of art and technology, like these days, technology is skyrocketing.
Yeah, yeah,
Every
yeah.
2 weeks to a month, you have something new. So,
Yeah.
what is how can art education and commitment, relate?
Sorry, art education and
Art education and commitment to the approach of technological influence in society? How do they
uh,
coincide with each other?
uh, this is a it's a very loaded question, because especially in these days of AI, when everybody's talking about AI all around, how does an artist, is there a place for an artist anymore? Will technology take over and they will start drawing and painting and creating songs, etc.? But I mean, at least at the moment, I would say that I am very clear in my mind that see, technology is picking up and learning from all of us. I mean, that's where they get their data from, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
the creativity is within me. My
yes,
point is unique, right? And while doing it, I may decide, okay, I don't like. this place here. I don't like this pink. I don't like this flower over here. And I can change it right and there and then. And I don't have to explain it to anybody. I don't have to write it down. You know, it's
Yeah.
बस हमको ठीक नहीं लग रहा, or I want it this way. So
Right.
that is my unique voice. And I don't see, any artificial intelligence taking over that. That's one point of it. And then the positive side of technology, as far as I've seen it, uh, before COVID, I was doing my workshops in person, and I was loving doing it because the high that you get when you talk to people and see them working is
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. And there is nothing more beautiful than that. But suddenly, when I was doing online workshops, and believe you me, the first one was really, I mean, I was so tense that my camera also fell because I was so worried. But the whole world opens out to you. So
Yes.
that is the power of technology. Suddenly sitting in Delhi, I can work with or share my love with so many people across the globe, and vice versa. So many people across the world are available to me to learn from.
Yes.
That I think is really tremendous. Suddenly the world has become a village, but in a very, very positive sense. That kind of a thing.
Absolutely.
So these two
Absolutely.
things.
So great. So we've spoken a lot about art education and creativity and innovation and a lot of aspects of coaching, mentoring, hobbies,
Uh,
stress
uh,
buster, everything into picture. So now speaking about Bandy Works, what are the future goals and projects that are in the pipeline?
Okay, let me first tell you how the name Bandy Works came, because a lot of people, they say Bandi Works. Some people say, okay, there should be a Y, etc. It's very simple. My name is Bandana. And I love, I always begin all my workshops with, my name is Bandana. And it has a meaning because, it means prayer. Because in India, we're very, each name has a unique meaning, right?
Yes.
So Bandy Works is because, some friends would call me Bandy instead of Bandana. I mean, I didn't much care for it, but fine. And so it became Bandy Works because it's Bandana's work, right? And so this was just an aside. And the future goals, what I would really like to do is to uh, curate workshops in as many diverse areas which call me, that like botanical dyeing and botanical inks and working with paper all came to me because during COVID there was hardly any material available. Oh, we have newspapers. We still had newspapers coming in, so we said, okay, so much of newspaper is lying at home, can we do something with? So I taught myself how to make paper, handmade paper. Then I myself how to make rolls with it and make products out of it. Similarly with eco dyeing, something which appealed to me. Then the other way also things work. If somebody says that, I want to do a work, I mean, this is what interests me, then my mind starts working. Can I design a workshop around that? Not
Right.
because or rather because if something interests you, then if I speak into your listening, it will be something that will be more receptive to you, and it will be like a puzzle for me. It's so interesting to create that. So I would love to do uh, corporate workshops, etc., because I feel folk art really lends itself to being something which doesn't threaten you. And then you could, why not use, I mean, we could use folk art as a tool for team building, for lots of things which, I mean, starting from being a stress buster and meditative, but it has an entire space out there where you
Right.
could be looking at. Then I would love to, I mean, Bandyworks, I'm really planning to do workshops, many more workshops, many more collaborations with organizations in various countries, and learn from them and bring art to them. And the third thing, which is still just a pipeline, I mean, still a dream, that the workshops I do, I would love to be able to do them along with our artisans. To be able to, the way, I mean, whatever is my thinking, to be able to share with them how to be able to create a workshop which would happen in 1 hour, because they are so good at that work, at their work, to be able to communicate just that much, which would be enough for the other person to digest, because they are the ones who are really good at that, their work. So to have a whole series of workshops like that with all so many art forms that we have, so that is something which I've kind of just thought of. But that's, and of course with colors and with eco dyeing and all, it's again another dream. I really want to do at least one exhibition in my life where I've created garments, and I'm not that good at designing and that, but I would love to do one exhibition and share with everybody how eco printing and all can very, very relevantly be used in these days. That's
Definitely,
it.
we wish you all the best for that end goal that is there about the exhibition. And of course, it will happen. It will happen soon, and we would be there to appreciate it for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, what's that last piece of advice that you would like to give our audience?
What I would say is that don't think too much about whether this thing really calls me, really interests me before taking that. It's, I mean, I'm just talking about my workshop, but generally in life, you can put it, you can afford to give 1 hour, 2 hours to something which kind of just rings a bell. Or I have this much free time, what can I, delve with it or explore? Have that exploratory mindset. Something, 2 hours or 3 hours or one day is a good amount of time to put aside for yourself. Give yourself that much of time to, put that time aside and persevere with it a little bit. Don't just give it up ekdam, just do it for an hour and give it up. Okay, no. Try a little bit. You can give it up, try something new, but be ready to learn all the time, and then it's fun because you'll always discover new things.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, thank you so much, Bandana, for your time and the lovely experience sharing that we've had. It's definitely been a journey with you and understanding more intricate aspects about art and technology, modernization, and everything. So, guys, my last piece of advice for you is we all have that creator, and creativity is there in us. It's just that you need to give yourself some time to let that innovative and creative aspect come out, because
Absolutely.
colors are very important in life and they definitely add to the color of your life. So
Absolutely.
that's me, Elvina, signing out. Thank you, Vandana, for your time and all the experience that you shared.
It's
Thank
been
you so much.
wonderful talking to you. Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Pleasure. Thank you.